Good morning. It's bright and early. It's early. Thanks for coming. It's amazing. It's difficult to get out of bed, and I've coaxed you all with my intriguing talk. This is going to be weird. You ever have this, I've had this idea for like 10 years, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to talk about this idea. And so, so today we're going to talk about the Emperor's New Brand, which is my parallel concept from the bedtime story or fable, Emperor's New Brand, to agency new business, which sounds like a stretch, and it is, but roll with me. Hey, I'm Mike Spakowski. I've done a lot of stuff. So I was on the board of the AIGA. I've been on the board of St. Louis Ad Club. I used to run St. Louis Design Week at the AIGA. I'm a partner and founder of Atomicdust. I started bright and early. They've been doing this for 10 years. I think over 10 years. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, so we just wanted cool people to come out and meet and hang out and tell stories. Betsy's here, I'm so nervous. And I started a job board called I Am So Bored because my life is really fueled by puns. So, just for creatives and marketers. So, we're gonna tell a story about the Emperor's New Clothes. I understand how hard it is to wake up early and then listen to like a bedtime story, so thanks for being there. Okay, so Emperor's New Clothes. I would read this book to my kids all like multiple nights. Like I had this big book and there's multiple stories, but you just go through, night after night, you'd read all these stories. This is a picture of Jay Leno reading to his kids. So I would read it and I would get like bored, like my mind would drift and I would think about work and stuff. And I'm like, man, what can I learn here? What is this about? And I'm like, oh, the brand is naked, right? So the little boy's this person who's like calling out bad design or, strange branding or something. And I always thought like that's this super cool, like rebellious spirit. So I'm like, I want to be the boy calling out bad design. That brand's ugly, or you paid too much, or this is silly or meaningless, and all this rebel stuff. And so I would read this thing like night after night. And night after night, you just think, well, I'm the boy and blah, 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 blah. And then I thought, oh my God, I'm the tailor. And I freaked out because I sell the invisible and I sell by reputation and no one knows what I'm gonna make. I'm not a crook, for the record, but I am more that role than the boy, and I kind of panicked. So I thought so because I sell invisible, I sell a concept, an idea, I sell a benefit, but not always something that you could see when you purchase it. I sell a method. So I thought I'd talk and tell a story about how I learned to sell creative services. You guys want to hear it? Yeah? I'm trying to wake you all up here alone. Okay, so once upon a time, as all good stories start, I made $35,000 a year. I know that might be impressive to some people, but I was trying to start a family and I was struggling. We started an agency. Our payments were irregular. We were far from rich and just kind of hanging in there. So I traveled to a far, far away land called Austin, Texas for a design business conference. There's design conferences, cool colors and trends and all this stuff. And this was the business of design of how to pitch and make proposals and get leads. What's up, John? And all that stuff. And so I went to this conference and I saw the speakers during the day, and I saw, there's these happy hours at night and all this stuff. But in the morning they had these breakfast round tables. So you'd wake up, you'd get your plate, you'd walk down to the buffet, you'd load up on eggs and stuff, and then you'd walk in this room, and there were 30 different tables with different topics, from how to present like Steve Jobs, or this year's killer drop shadows, or how to hire the right people or something. And there was this one table that was packed with people, and it said, how to charge clients more and get away with it. And I'm like, well, this is really, really interesting. So I heard, the whole thing was ran by this woman named Mary Lynn something, and I should really know her name. But Mary Lynn told this story. She, in front of this whole group of people, she said, hello, I'm Mary Lynn. I work at a Canadian retail branding company called Suburbia. And the way our new business works is the phone rings and I say, we only work with Canadian retail brands. Are you Canadian? Are you retail? Great. Well, let me tell you about our process. The way we work is we go into your retail location, we look at it, we look at competitors, we look at the area, we look at trends in the market. We do all this research. We will craft like a brand identity, all the language, all the retail display systems for the next year. We'll mock up a website and all that stuff. And we will put it into a book called Your Retail Brand Guide. And we won't actually produce any of the pieces. We'll just give you the concept for the pieces in the guide. And this book costs $75,000. And I was just sort of dumbfounded because I was like, there's no way. Because like, I'm grinding it out, making, $70 an hour or something, just trying to keep above water. And like, I looked at their stuff, I'm like, I'm better than these guys. And how are all these agencies making money and all this stuff? And I just couldn't believe it. But all these people are sitting around taking notes and everything. And I just thought it was kind of weird. So my whole life is ran by stories of meals. That day, the thing ended, and then there were speakers throughout the day, and then it was lunchtime. And when you travel alone, you don't know anybody. So you're like, hey, I saw you at Mary Lynn's talk this morning. Can I sit? Can we talk about that stuff? Because I don't know anyone to hang out with or eat. So I met this guy named Lance. This is Lance, and he told me. I go, that woman this morning, I go, there's no way that would ever work. And he's like, oh no. He goes, it works all the time. He goes, my name's Lance, and I run an agency in Minnesota. I live in a town that has like 300 people, so there's no clients. But I run this agency in Minnesota, and all we do is branding for credit unions. And the way it works is the phone rings, and I say, okay, well, you're a credit union? Great. You need branding? Great. So we go in, we have like a 2-month process. We meet the team, we look at the space, we come up with a brand, and we do all this stuff. We present, and ours is only $20,000. But I just thought it was interesting. And then I went on and I met a woman who only did youth brands. I met someone who only did sports brands. I met someone who only did Indian-owned casinos, which blew my mind, these little niche vertical markets. So I thought it was just interesting, and it changed everything for me. So Lance said all this stuff was true. And so I came back to the office, and I just started to read everything I could about new business. These are a couple authors that have been really influential for me. There's Blair Enns, just show of hands if you guys have ever heard of these guys. Blair Enns, Win Without Pitching. Yeah. David Baker, many books and posts. Tim Williams, Positioning. Zig Ziglar. Zig Ziglar's the man. Marty Neumeier, of course. And then Donald Miller, Building a Story Brand. And so my whole life got consumed by just reading these things and like trying to learn and piece together and run a business and grow. But I realized I was looking at design so small. I was looking at it as like, oh, you need a thing? Well, I think it might take me 15 minutes to do. And then I'd put together, custom proposals and small fees that worked in budgets, and I would just do nothing but like compromise for everything. But the big difference was instead of like charging by the hour, we just started to productize our service. So we'd say, we do this and this and this and this and this. Here's what you get. Here's our offering that's true to us, that's beneficial for our clients, and then we wrapped a dollar amount on it. And it was really breakthrough. And it was way bigger than just graphic design. It wasn't just like color and shape and form. It was like strategy and research and language and meaning and audience knowledge and competitor knowledge. And so it wasn't about design anymore. It was just about sales and marketing and strategy and ultimately value for the client. So if I wanted to be if I wanted to be successful in this business, the only way to do it is to build reputation. If you're going to build reputation, you have to be an expert. So I would speak and write and post on LinkedIn and all these things, and I had to become the tailors, just not the crook part. You guys get not the crook part, right? Okay, just saying. You guys tracking so far? Everybody awake? Yeah? All right. It's metaphors. Okay, so what I did, what everybody would do, I hired Jay Leno and I had him come into Atomicdust and help us build process. So, ChatGPT must think I'm a giant balloon, but we sat in a conference room and we built out a process that was true to us and genuine to us. And it was really the most breakthrough thing we've did and successful to ourselves and successful to our clients. And we did it probably, Katie, it's been like 17 years ago, I think, but it's been great. So when I read The Emperor's New Clothes, I start to think this is about selling the invisible, and it's about, but so is creative work, so is the work we all do. Who here is designers? Who here designs things? Yeah, okay. Preaching to the choir. You guys already know this stuff. But I think most everything you need about sales or process is in this story. You guys want to unpack it? Yeah, all right. Okay, so depending on the day, so I used to be like the boy, and then I thought I was the tailors and all this stuff, but I've been all of these characters, right? I've been like the creative tailors who, sell invisible. I've been the emperor or the CEO who has to make decisions about the brand and shape the company. I've been the advisor to clients where they hire other agencies, and I know they're doing kind of crappy work, but I don't know if I should say it or not. I've been the crowd on social media dissing work or praising work. I've been the boy saying this is great or terrible. So depending on the day, I'm usually all these characters. Here's my disclaimer, for the love of God, right? This is I don't mean that everyone is a stereotype or that CEOs are vain or designers are crooks. It's just an example. Okay, story recap. An emperor obsessed with fashion hires two tailors who promise to make him magical clothes. The tailors claim the clothes are invisible to anyone who's too stupid or unfit for their position to see. No one, including the emperor and his advisors, can see the clothes, but they all pretend they can out of fear. The emperor parades through the town wearing nothing, and everyone in the crowd pretends to admire the outfit. A child finally shouts, he's not wearing any clothes, exposing the truth. The emperor realizes the truth, but continues the parade out of pride. So it keeps going. The big difference between like creatives and the tailors or our outcomes are not invisible, of course. We actually make things, but the process of making it is completely invisible at the time. So I'll talk about the process. So I broke the story down into the same phases I think like sort of agencies work at. So the pitch. Okay, the pitch. What? The tailors sold their expertise, scarcity, and process. They came in and said, we're the best tailors in the land. Not many people can afford us, and we only make a certain type of thing, which is very appealing to the emperor. The emperor is buying a better version of himself. The emperor was buying something that would elevate his status or how he saw himself, which is a lot of what we do. The tailors were positioned into a single vertical. We don't mend socks. We only do magical clothes. If you need a sock mender, there's somebody else. We don't mend socks. The tailors charged a premium because if they were the cheapest option, nobody would probably want it. The emperor wanted something new and breakthrough. The idea of new is compelling to people. A new brand or a new whatever, it sounds great. The tailors could never break character or they would die. Agencies sometimes have problems pivoting or understanding that maybe they've gone in a direction that they should backpedal. The tailors had a unique offering that solves a client's problem. They knew why they were there, and they led the engagement. They had a method, a time frame, and a reputation for solving these problems. They could explain, here's how we did it, here's what we'll do. We're going to buy a bunch of golden thread and weave it up. I don't know anything about weaving, but I think that's what they meant. So big ideas. People are buying a better version of themselves. This is a thing that compels a lot of my work and a lot of sales for the world, but people are always buying, even in B2B, smarter, faster, cooler, prettier versions of themselves. When you sell people things, you don't just say, hey, do you want this thing? You want to tell them the beautiful new world. I have a friend yesterday he's debating getting a Rolex, and so he was like weighing he goes, I don't want to get a Rolex, blah, blah, blah. What a first world problem to have. But I'm like, you're just doing it for like the status of it. Like you want to feel good. He's like, well, I do. I'm like, well, you can, that's fine. But that's like it's elevated. People buy new cars and homes and things because they want to level up. And that's just the nature of thing. There's nothing wrong with it. Big idea. No one had an offering like the tailors. You can test your expertise by how easy it is to replace you. If you're an agency and you can just get fired and get replaced by another agency, you're probably not that expert. You're more of a generalist. This haunts me, by the way. You guys tracking this? Yeah? I mean, we could quit and just have coffee. Okay, value can be perceived. If it costs more, people think it's worth more. You guys, what's a better car? Right? Here's two cars. One's 5K, the other is 50K. What's the better one? Everyone will say 50K, because that's how we perceive things. So if I say, hey, what's a better website? A $5,000 website or a $50,000 website? Which one's better? It's the same sort of approach. You just don't know what's under the curtain. Sometimes selling is about timing. You could be the best salesperson in the world, have the best product, or be the best creative, but it's not time for people to buy. So the emperor didn't need new clothes all the time. He needed it for this one event, and that compelled him. People usually do brands or websites every 2 years, so it's not like an ongoing thing. Brand is reputation. And Marty Neumeier talks about this concept. Holding the space in the client's mind before the needs arrive give you a major advantage. So when I say mobile phone, you think iPhone or Android, whatever you're, unless you're, some third party. But most people think iPhone nowadays. Right? Who would think iPhone? Yeah? Yeah? Okay, great. What would it take to get you to change that? To get you to think Android first? It's damn hard. Brand is reputation. Once you're in that person's mind for that thing, for that topic, it's very powerful. Your job is to build a reputation. I met this guy who ran this firm. You ever hear of a firm in Canada called Teehan & Lax? They did maybe like Medium.com. They made all this huge. Anyway, I met John Lax, and it was like when you meet a famous designer, it's like a plumber meeting a famous plumber. You're like, oh my God, you plumb? I loved your toilets. But I met this guy, and he told me that the thing that would haunt him every day, he would say, what have I done today to build reputation? He goes, I could have enough money, I can never have enough reputation. So this would haunt him. So I think it's good advice. The tailors were the preferred choice. The emperor did not issue an RFP. Guys, this is the best joke in the whole thing. Okay, onboarding. So in the story, tailors get hired. They make their pitch. The emperor decides to hire them. They give them all the gold and thread and everything. And so a couple of these books that I've read over the years have great lines about this onboarding process. If you position yourself as the expert, onboarding becomes a transfer of control, which I think is interesting. Rather than just take everybody's stuff, you're now saying, I'm gonna own this problem and fix this for you. Most onboarding is about absorbing the client's dysfunction, politics, and lack of clarity. My own company has dysfunction, politics, and lack of clarity too. Everyone does, but you inherit all the social problems also. There's always, you guys ever have a project where like, oh, everyone's so excited about you guys doing this thing, but and we want you to talk to everybody, but I gotta tell you about Bob. Bob's like a little, you'll meet Bob, just like a little off. Everybody has a Bob. Everyone's sort of like ashamed of their Bob, but everybody has it. Love your Bob. The emperor loved the tailors. They loved him, thought they were great guys, but it didn't mean they were building the right thing. Sometimes firms overcommit to things they don't know how to build, and it does everybody a disservice. And then a lot of agencies don't do the work themselves. A lot of people freelance everything out. And I just thought this image was amazing, so I just wanted to share the idea that you could have a sewing medieval freelance website was great. So they should ask, or you should ask, are you doing it yourself? The advisors, there's the pitch, there is the onboarding, and then the tailors get to work and they start making stuff. And just like an agency, you go away for a couple weeks and no one's heard anything from you, and you're curious, are they working on it? What's going on? There's a great line that says that when there's a communication gap, clients fill it with uncertainty. So they do these check-ins. They want to be, make sure you're working on stuff. So usually, in my example, the advisors are like the marketing team. The CEO might have made the buying decision, but the marketing team has to deal with it. Excuse me. But the marketing team didn't hire the agency necessarily. Like maybe they don't care or even like these people. They've maybe never worked on a project like Invisible Clothes, so they don't know how to handle it or what to expect, or a brand rollout or a giant website. They don't want to seem unsophisticated, right? So they don't want to. They don't want to seem like they don't know what they're talking about when you have, when you show clothes or concept or something. They want to, look pro, and they don't want to object to leadership. And I don't know if everybody wants to admit this, but if your boss hires this place to do this thing, and you're like, I think it's pretty bad, people are afraid to do that, and it's human nature, and I totally understand it. It's hard. So most of the time, it's like, it's great. They couldn't see the idea, they didn't like the work, but they report back to the emperor that, it's all going great, because they're scared. The approval, okay, final approval. The emperor signs off on the brand identity. The tailors go in, they show the emperor the clothes. Here's these clothes, look how great they are, you're gonna put them on. The emperor realizes he can't see, right? And he's like, okay, and he just goes along with it. So when fear is high, clients crave clarity. They want you to be able to understand what they're doing, what they're getting. If you give someone a new brand identity, they want to know the pieces. Most of the reason is they want to say, can I justify this if someone challenges me? If someone's like, okay, I know you rolled out this new brand, but what does just do it mean? You have to be comfortable saying, I'll explain that it's a rally cry for athletes everywhere. Blair Enns says, final approval is not the end of the sale, it's the last chance to lead. Agencies often think selling ends after a pitch, but it doesn't. At final approval, you resell the value, reframe the risk, and re-anchor the expectations. You go through everything. Here's why we made these choices. Here's what we looked at. Here's why we made these decisions. Here's what we think the risk is. Here's what we think the opportunity is. Marty Neumeier says, the emperor's nervous, and Marty says that you can't differentiate and be comfortable. When you do something new, you should be a little nervous about it. It should get you a little riled up, because that means it's probably different enough to work. The emperor isn't afraid of being wrong, he's afraid of being laughed at. Like most of his things aren't worried about are the clothes the right fit or the color. It's like, are people gonna laugh at me? And I also just want to point out that it took me lots of time to line up these I's with the O and the P. And I just want you guys, I hope you appreciate it. That's all. I did it for you. Okay, the launch. Okay, launch time. It's time for the emperor to walk down the street and put on his new brand or his new clothes and show off to the world. And this is a scary moment, because the emperor at this point has to stand naked and alone, without the tailors, without the agency, no one there to explain the genius of it all. It's just the work in the crowd and their reaction to it, and his ability to defend it or explain it or roll with it. You guys, there's a great show on Netflix called Abstract. You guys ever see it? Yeah? Who's seen it? Yeah? It's great. It's like little interviews with like little tiny vignettes of like stories about designers. And Paula Scheer, famed designer, has this great episode. And she talks, in the episode they follow her presenting this poster design, this poster campaign to some theater company, I forget. But she talks about the anatomy of a meeting and how you go in and you start off with the baseline, and then you show them the big idea and you set the expectations. And then at that point, there's usually some kind of rebuttal. Like, we like this, but this is a little off. And the meeting kind of plateaus, and you have to make a correction or an idea to change it to get everything on track. And at that point, that's where you should end the meeting, because there's nowhere but down from there. It's a great thing to watch. But she says the reason people are so critical is they want proof that this is really, really going to work. The problem is there isn't proof. It's how people see and perceive and accept things. And I think that drives a lot of fear and decisions, because what we do is subjective, and there's not always a clear right answer. It's instinct and taste and experience. Where's Erica? There's Erica. Is it a good brand? Who's to say? This line, who's to say, is one of our favorite at Atomicdust, and I just wanted to show this. This is where it comes from.
Thumb right through the neck. Was he a good dog? Who's to say?
We say this constantly, and I just wanted to thank Erica for 17 years of working together. So that was tribute. Was it good? Who's to say? Okay, so is a brand good? Who's to say? The emperor has to deal with it and walk it out, and that's what he's got to do. So usually there's some kind of launch on social media, and it says, big news, we've rebranded. After months of hard work, the future of kingdoms is here. All citizens united as one, we move together, forward always. With the launch of our new brand, the kingdom will be ruled not by a solo emperor alone, but by values. And then it's usually like a picture of a logo or something. And then you have the internal team, right? And it's like, congrats on the new brand, and it looks great, and I love this direction for the kingdom and all this stuff. And then that little boy comes in and destroys your soul, and he says, this brand is naked, it's awful. And then it just spirals, and people say, unfortunately, I don't like the new brand, and this is embarrassing, and it's awful, and I have no idea what they were thinking, and all this, terrible comments, and it spirals. Hopefully this never happens to most people, but you guys have seen this on social media, right? Where people love to destroy things, and it can be, for the company, the loneliest place in the world, because they realize they've rolled this thing out, but they don't know what to do. Do they stay the course? Do they roll it back? Do you guys remember when Gap made a new logo like 10 years ago? There's a classic, square Gap Navy logo. They redid it to just be like Helvetica with this like gradient thing. It lasted 4 days, and they rolled it back because all these people hated it. But it was the loneliest place in the world. They had to make this decision. What slide do I have? Oh, okay. So we've all seen this comment too, right? So someone will read some news source, find out what the agency's fee were, and then put it on comments. And there's a thing about in St. Louis that happened the other day, but $100K for that? I could have done it for $20, which I think is the funniest thing, because for a couple reasons. But first off, the thing you make is like a part of the job, sure. That artifact that you end up with is part of the job, but go get hired for it and go present it to a panel of people and convince them that it's right and die on stage and tell them why you think it's great. Then take their edits and then tweak it and change it and revise it and defend it and make options for it and make humor spouses that just want to see it in blue. And answer the question of, well, what else do you got? I know you made this one, but do you have, what else did you have? And all this stuff. And that's the job. That's a huge part of the job. So $100K for that, I could have done it for 20. The way I think about it is this: the brand only cost $100K. The other 99 is to endure all the mean comments on social media that could happen. And I think that's what agencies' fees are for. So you got a new brand. The emperor holds his head up, walks down the thing anyway, knows that everyone's kind of laughing at him, and it's this hollow thing, but he's just going for it because that's his choice. But the agency disappears. The emperor marches alone. That's why clarity and conviction have to be baked in the brand, not just sold in, not just this idea that's imposed on you. Identity isn't something you buy, it's something you believe in. And great creatives help bring that to life. And that's really our job, not to impose, but to make relevant to more people. The end, but it's not. It's not. Question mark. So I zone out, I read this book over and over and over, and I just start to wonder. You guys ever hear the line that the winners write the history books? Yeah? Okay. Winners write the history books. This book starts off with these two tailors are crooks, or they were crooks posed as tailors, right? But maybe that's because the person who wrote it framed it like because they had a bad experience. They didn't like their work. What if the tailors were just really conceptual? Right? So what if the idea of their job wasn't a ripoff? It was high art. It was high fashion. It was avant-garde. So what if they weren't crooks at all, just too conceptual for the audience? What if people loved these invisible clothes and the concept behind it, the idea that there's this nothingness to it that makes it transparent to the people, and that's how an emperor should dress? Would this story be different? Would they totally change it? And I just wondered that stuff. Would the tailors go off and win all kinds of design awards, and become known for this work rather than shamed as being crooks, Black turtlenecks on tailors, it's funny. Okay, I think either way, you have to swing for the fences. As creative people, branding is risk. As business people, branding is risk. You have to swing for bold, great ideas that break through, because blending in is the worst thing. And just remember your audience when you do it. Remember who you're talking to, and don't get too damn full of yourself. I think sometimes experts can get so inflated that they can't relate to people. But you have to swing. It's very important. Okay, The Emperor's New Clothes, I think it was written by Hans Christian Andersen in like 1830, but it still happens all the time. And I've been thinking about this talk for like 10 years, and so I've noted it. But like, you guys ever heard this? It's a British band. I don't know if many people know it, the Beatles. Yeah, anyway, they're all right. In the 60s, they were really into transcendental meditation. So they went to India, where this famed yogi master guru named the Maharishi agreed to teach them his methods. And he said that his methods are very expensive, and they could only be understood by intelligent men. And this same kind of Emperor's New Clothes hook happened to them. And after 2 weeks, they said it was bullshit, and they left. And then they wrote a song about it called Sexy Sadie, because it's supposed to be Maharishi, but they just changed the title because they didn't want to get sued. Anyway, interesting. You guys ever see this thing? Anybody? So this is the 2004, I think it's 2004, maybe 14, I don't know. Where do the decades go? This is the over-engineered Pepsi brand standards guide, where the agency broke down every logo in the history of Pepsi into ovals and started to compare the different shapes and spacing around the ovals with the gravitational pull of the Earth. Then they compared to the Fibonacci sequence and Mona Lisa and the galaxy. They measure it against every human expression on their face. And they start to talk about the brand in light years and how that means to the other brands. And it's so complex. It's so complex. And you just got to wonder, like, did people say, oh, I mean, when that's presented to you in front of a group of people, they look like geniuses. You're like, okay, you guys have thought about this, obviously. You guys, Jaguar this year? You guys, anyone familiar with Jaguar? Jaguar rebranded, and they made a bold, huge, different brand. It didn't look like a car company. It didn't look like, the leather glove racing down the road kind of Jaguar, finest luxury motor car in the world. From SNL, they wanted to change it and be modern and hip. They rolled out all these videos featuring these people. They never showed a car. It was just smoke and these people, and then the line, copy nothing, Jaguar. And like, I think at some point, even this guy knew that maybe it's going a little south, a little heady. But again, if you can't see the beauty of Jaguar, you must be a fool. It's so thought out. If you can't see the beauty of Pepsi, you must be a fool. And I think that's the danger, and that's where the story of saying, well, this brand is naked. This brand is, no clothes, there's nothing to it. It's over our heads or inappropriate or whatever. And that's the whole rebellious spirit that I think makes design fun. Expert risk being too expert and can become unrelatable. You guys know Jessica Walsh? Love her or hate her, but
Hot take. Not every single curve, color, composition, and font decision in your brand needs a 5-paragraph essay over intellectualizing the concept behind it.
The curve of the R symbolizes rebirth. This blue, inspired by a 14th century pigment used by monks. The negative space between the letters represents the void of modern existence. Please stop. 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 It's enough.
Listen, I'm not saying you don't need conceptual ideas or strategies. We always build our campaign and brand work off strategic insights. But once a strategic direction and the core visual ideas for the brand are set, the rest of the creative decisions and elements don't all need a huge explanation or backstory. So why are we picking this warm serif over this warm serif? Sometimes the reason is literally because it fucking looks better. Take, for example, our work for Baboon, a travel company inspiring people to get lost in their travels. The brand DNA is all about being playful and irreverent and fun. Our custom type is inspired by old travel posters, and the collage style that we developed for them fits the irreverence of the brand and also fit their budget. But is there a deep philosophical meaning as to why this guy is sitting on a goldfish versus a shark? Nope. Why the blue and orange for the brand? They look great and stood out from the competitors. End of story. The point is, good taste is a strategy, beauty is a strategy, humor can be a strategy, tone and harmony, and the way something feels is a strategy. If you try to over-intellectualize every minute design decision, you're going to design your work into the ground. And if you get a client asking for the reasoning and concept behind every small detail, remind them that there's a few big ideas that matter, and then for the rest of the elements, being beautiful is sometimes enough.
Every day I look in the mirror and I'm like, being beautiful is sometimes enough. You're going to design your work into the ground, and I feel like, I think a lot of people do it, and they want to prove themselves right so much that on a thing that they can't, they overly defend things and find meaning in things that doesn't really exist. Lessons for clients: ask honest questions even when it's awkward. A beautiful brand without clarity is just costume. If it's just design and it doesn't mean anything, it's just costume. Don't outsource your confidence. If you can't back this thing up and say, look how this is me, it's a reflection of me, that's the problem. Eric and I always say that when you brand someone, you pick out their clothes. So what I think is appropriate, like a black t-shirt and jeans for a business meeting, may not be appropriate to someone who likes to wear suits. It's not about me, it's about trying to be the best version of the client. Being bold doesn't mean being blind. Surround yourself with people who tell you the truth. People all day tell me I'm wrong, constantly. It's great. Lessons for agencies: confidence is part of the job, so is honesty. It's a huge part of the job. Be yourself. If the client is afraid to speak up, you failed. If there's never been a pushback or an explanation or some kind of feedback, conversation about things, then you might have failed. In the final presentation, when you show your work, it's not about selling anything. You're not trying to sell it. You're trying to help and guide and shape. But it's about trust. Don't sell invisibility. Don't make an identity or something that people can just hide behind that they never have to represent. I think like in the 80s and 90s, like the corporate logo was just this monolith that was expressionless. And then people can just say, there was no personality. There's no humanness to it, and I think that's really changed. It's always about your client. They're the ones that have to wear the brand. It's not about imposing your tastes. I have this whole side conversation about how Frank Lloyd Wright would impose his philosophy on his clients, and he was sort of like a harsh person. Like he would, all kinds of stories about like how he did what he wanted to do, even at the risk of his clients. But so this was a fable. It's from 1834. And how do you know that the story is just a fable? Because the emperor had no changes. You guys have been great. Next month, I'll talk about how Rumpelstiltskin is really about the pressure of deadlines and pulling all-nighters. That's just a joke. I'm not really going to do that. But I just wanted to thank you and show this great picture of myself. And this is the picture of the original sign when I went to that conference. Anyway, I'm Mike. Have a great day.